Welcome to this tutorial about Voyager tours. This tutorial will cover the basics of creating a tour that combines and curates all your added information, such as annotations, articles, and your models. The next tutorial will cover advanced use cases, combining these features in creative ways. To create and edit a tour, we first open the Tour task in the taskbar. Then in the bottom panel, we select the Tour Editor tab. Add a new tour by clicking the plus symbol in the editor window. For every tour, you can turn on specific snapshot configurations. Here, you can select which groups of settings are recorded in a tour. The set of selected features is the same for all tours in a scene. If you deselect a feature, previously recorded settings of the feature are lost. If you change the settings of a feature that you haven't enabled here, for example, lighting settings, then, if you change the setting for this, it will change it for the whole edition, not just for that tour step. So if you're unsure which features you might use in your tour, you can turn them all on from the start. By default, only the state of the camera in navigation and the reader button for displaying articles are recorded. Which feature buttons correspond to which Voyager feature will become clear when we get to them. You can also move a tour up and down in the list of tours. You can also delete it here. Moving to the tour that I have already prepared, we can choose the language of the tour here, which is automatically set to English, as this is the language for the whole edition. And here we can edit the title. Tags for tours, like with articles, are not functioning at the time, which is why we will skip this. Delete is the short description that informs visitors about the tour's content or theme. You can see it in the overview here. Next, to create a new step, we click Create in the Tour Editor window. On the right, we then change the title. This text will appear here in the navigation bar in the Explorer window and will also be visible to visitors. You can also move steps up and down. And to delete a step, we click Delete. Voyager creates automatic animations between tour steps, but we can also adjust these animations. The curve setting determines how moving from one step to the next is animated. The default ease out quad, for example, animates very quickly in the beginning and then slows down before reaching the next step. Each step can have a different individual curve. Below that, the duration determines how long the animation takes from the previous step to the current step. Currently, it's set to 1.5, which is this quick. But if we change it to, for example, 0.1, go back to the step, and go again, you see it's really quick. In comparison, if we change it to 4, it will go really slowly. So the higher the number, the slower the animation. For settings that change in between steps but cannot be animated, like turning off or on a model, the threshold determines the point of change within the curve animation from the previous step to the current one. So in this case, from step 0 to step 1. A threshold of 0% switches to the new settings at the very beginning of the animation. A value of 50% switches the setting midpoint, and 100% switches it at the end of the animation. How this looks in practice, I will show you in the next topic. If you have multiple models in your edition, and you want to choose which ones to show or not in the Tours tab, go to the settings of the model you want to hide or make visible. In this case, we want to enable this model. Go to the settings of the model and turn on visibility. To save this change of scenery, we need to click Update. Now, if we go back and forth, the new step is saved. Moving back and forth between steps also shows how the threshold works. If I turn threshold down to 0 and move to the next step, oh, I did it for the wrong thing. If we turn down threshold to 0, save it, and go back to the previous step, Go back to step 2. The new model will appear at the start of the transition animation. If I change this to 100, and we'll go to this step again, it will appear at the end of the transition animation. If you don't like the look of the suddenly appearing model, you can, alternatively, lower the opacity by turning on Override here, making sure that the opacity is 100%. Save this, and go back to the step before it. Also turn on the object and the override, but turning down opacity to 0. That way, the object is technically already there, but invisible, and if you move to the next step, it will slowly fade into the screen. To turn on annotations in your Tours tab, enable Viewer in the Snapshot settings, and either click the annotation button in the Explorer window here, or turn it on in the V settings here. You can also use tags in your annotations, and select the annotations to be enabled or not. In this case, selecting Personal Life will hide the annotations at the back. If I turn them on, they're also visible. By clicking on an annotation, you activate its set view, as we've seen in a tutorial on annotations. And in this case, with an extended annotation, it will also show the extra information, in this case a Read More button leading to an article. This brings us to the next topic of adding articles to your tour. To activate an article, we click on the article button. This will show us the overview of all the articles in your edition. By default, the articles will appear in overlay, as I covered in a tutorial on articles. But in order to also show the model, we will need to change it to right alignment. So we go to VScene, Settings, Reader, Position, and set it to right. To save this, we need to update the step, and then we can go to the next one. Here, we can pick the same article, and it will be back in overlay view. And now, going back to the previous step, we see that only in this step the article will be on the right. In the tutorial on Voyager Explorer, I went through all the tools available in Voyager. You can also use these tools during tours. To access these tools, we need to open a toolbar, and the first option is, well, View. But we'll move on to Material. To save material changes in the Tours tab, Models needs to be enabled in the snapshot settings. Click on a material that you want to change it to, click Update, and now this step will have this material. The next tool, Environment, has several snapshot configurations attached to it. To enable background, Changes, enable background, Grid, Floor, and Environment. With lights enabled in snapshot configurations, you pick the light you want to adjust up here. Go to its settings, and you will see how the light interacts with the model here. Picking the light you want to change, you can change the intensity and even the color. Turning the intensity all the way down will turn the model black, revealing the silhouette. Or you can make it look dramatic, like this. The Measure tool, for which we need to enable tape in the snapshot settings, can be added by clicking on two spots on the model. Turning it on, you can click here and here. To reset the tape, simply click on another spot on the model. Lastly, the Slicing tool needs Slicer enabled in the snapshot settings. Choose which axis you want to slice and how far, then update the step. You can also combine things. In this case, it could be fun to enable the picture in the background and turn the model in front of it into X-ray. That way you can see the picture behind it through the model. More advanced use cases and examples of combined features of tours will be discussed in the second part to this tutorial. Thank you for watching and see you in the next tutorial.